Some people say that the corporate world is like a battlefield, but in reality, it often feels more like a bad comedy act. Executives in sleek suits performing the same tired tricks, hoping no one notices how they pull the wool over everyone's eyes. But I was there, the day the show came crashing down, the day the facade of power crumbled, and the true nature of the game was laid bare. Let me paint a picture for you. Picture a senior executive, his face a mix of fury and fear, hissing at a young woman with a microphone in her hand. "If you speak again, I'll break your arm," he snarled, yanking the mic from her grasp and twisting her wrist in front of dozens of stunned employees. Little did he know, the woman he was humiliating, the so-called intern, was actually the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. She was his new CEO and the mastermind of his downfall. That day wasn't just a moment of humiliation. It was a turning point. It was the summer of 2015 in the sweltering heat of Miami when Jordan Summers, then just 22 years old, stepped into the pristine boardroom of Titan Technologies. Nervous but determined, her hands slightly shaking in her business suit, Jordan stood tall, her resolve unwavering. She had spent months designing a revolutionary software solution capable of transforming the way companies manage their global operations. This wasn't just another pitch. It was her last shot at saving her fledgling company, one that was teetering on the edge of collapse. Across from her sat Ethan Gray, the vice president of operations, a man with a face as cold as stone, exuding an air of arrogance. He barely acknowledged her presence, tapping his fingers against the table, making it clear that he saw her as nothing more than an inexperienced girl, just another young, black woman trying to break into a world that wasn't meant for her. When Jordan finished her pitch, Ethan's response was dripping with false politeness but loaded with venom. "We don't make investments based on unproven ideas from unreliable sources," he said, the word unreliable hanging in the air like a bitter taste. The room filled with laughter from his colleagues, mocking her, but Jordan didn't flinch. The damage was done. In the days that followed, the rejections poured in. Opportunities evaporated as Ethan used his influence to ensure nobody would take her seriously. In the end, Jordan's savings were wiped out, her team scattered, and her startup reduced to a pile of paperwork and a bitter sense of defeat. But she refused to let it end there. Alone in her small apartment, staring at her company's logo, she vowed to herself, "This isn't over. I'll take everything back." This time, it wasn't about fame or success. It was about something much bigger, justice. 10 years passed. Ethan rose higher, building a network of loyalists and consolidating his power. But Jordan never forgot. She clawed her way back from the ashes, taking on night shifts, freelance jobs, learning the ins and outs of both finance and technology. Along the way, she built a network of silent allies, hidden behind layers of shell companies, slowly but surely buying up stocks and gaining control. No one knew her true identity. She was just a shadow in the background. Meanwhile, Ethan remained blissfully unaware, ruling the company with an iron fist, convinced that Jordan had been nothing more than a fleeting nuisance. What he didn't know was that the very woman he had tried to erase was now quietly pulling the strings behind every major deal. But Jordan wanted more than control. She wanted to see the corruption firsthand. So, she did something daring. She infiltrated Titan Technologies under an alias, Maya Rodriguez, a shy, unassuming intern with thick glasses and an unremarkable resume. No one suspected her, and that was exactly how she wanted it. She spent her days observing, listening, and documenting every racist remark, every idea stolen from employees of color, every woman who was dismissed in meetings. Her only confidant was Carlos, a young developer who had seen it all before. "Stay sharp," he warned her. "This place smiles at you, but it'll stab you in the back when you least expect it." Then came the turning point. During a meeting, a Latina manager, Isabella, pointed out a $2 million discrepancy in the financial records. Ethan dismissed her immediately, but Maya, Jordan, quietly confirmed the numbers didn't add up. In that moment, Ethan's eyes narrowed. He didn't recognize Maya, but he saw her as a threat, and from that moment on, he made it his mission to break her. He assigned her menial tasks, publicly ridiculed her, and tried to bury her with humiliation. But every slight was a piece of the puzzle Jordan was building, piece by piece. The real action, though, was happening behind the scenes. Jordan's team of hackers and legal experts worked tirelessly, collecting evidence of everything. Emails laced with racist comments, financial fraud, bribery, and plans to sell company secrets. Then came Ethan's biggest mistake. During the quarterly town hall meeting, he called Maya to the stage to present her findings. He was hoping to embarrass her in front of the entire company. He twisted her wrist, sneering, "Know your place," before shoving her aside. The crowd fell silent. But Carlos, ever the watchful ally, captured the moment on video. That night, Jordan's team put the final pieces together. The footage, emails, financial records, and secret recordings were enough to take down an empire. It was time to act. The next morning, Jordan summoned an emergency board meeting. She called in the FBI and laid out the entire case. At sunrise, she walked into the boardroom, not as Maya Rodriguez, the intern, but as Jordan Summers, the true CEO and owner of the company. You should have seen Ethan's face when she took the head seat. He thought it was a joke until she played the video for the entire room. The footage of him twisting her wrist, sneering at her in front of everyone. Then came the emails, the bank records, the proof of his corruption. The board had no choice but to act. Ethan and his cronies were fired on the spot, their faces as pale as ghosts as security escorted them out. Later, standing in her office overlooking Miami's skyline, Jordan knew this wasn't just about getting revenge. It was about rebuilding, about turning the company around and giving a voice to the people who had been silenced for so long. She introduced reforms, anonymous reporting, audits for bias, and promotions for those who had been overlooked for years. The company's stock dropped initially, but then it surged as trust began to return. Ethan and his supporters tried lawsuits and smear campaigns, but each move only dug them deeper into their own grave. As for Ethan, he was last seen working in a warehouse, his reputation destroyed, his former allies nowhere to be found. But Jordan didn't stop there. Under her leadership, a new generation of young, diverse tech talent rose through the ranks. The company, once built on fear, was now a beacon of hope and change. Despite the success, the battle was far from over. A few of Ethan's loyalists still tried to sabotage her reforms, but Jordan shut them down one by one. Every time someone asked her, "Aren't you afraid they'll come for you?" Jordan simply smiled. Let them try. As she stood in her office that evening, watching the city below, Jordan Summers knew that her fight was far from over. But each victory was a stepping stone to something greater, and every voice raised in solidarity made her company stronger. Jordan's journey wasn't just about taking down a corrupt system. It was about reclaiming power, redefining success, and proving that resilience can transform even the darkest circumstances. What she built was more than a company. It was a movement that rejected fear, dismantled prejudice, and embraced the strength of unity. Her actions proved that even in a world built on inequality, one person's courage could spark monumental change. In the end, Jordan didn't just win. She rewrote the rules of the game. She gave a platform to those who had been silenced, elevated voices that had been overlooked, and showed that justice wasn't just an ideal, but something that could be fought for and achieved. Her story isn't just about revenge, it's about revolution. It's about standing up, speaking out, and never backing down. Jordan's legacy will inspire anyone who's ever felt powerless to rise and rewrite their own future.